You're listening to TruthDare with your host, Toan Lam. Tell the truth. We dare you.
You may know him as a Hollywood producer of many awesome movies, author of the book on doing and being, and podcast co-host of Cutting Edge Consciousness. Barnet Bain is an award-winning movie producer, director, and he produced one of my favorite movies of all time, What Dreams May Come, with Robin Williams, which won an Oscar, The Celestine Prophecy, and most recently, Milton Secret, inspired by Eckhart Tolle's book. But what I know his true self to be is the master on being. Not that he's perfect in any way and always in the present moment, really none of us are, but that he uses his power and his talents of storytelling to inspire us to be. And now my conversation with Barnet Bain. Hey, Barnet.
All right, hold on. Let me get this plugged in.
Barnet, what a delight, though, to really connect with you. You're a Hollywood director, you're an author, podcast, Cutting Edge Consciousness, super awesome and real. And, you know, it's funny because I always feel like no matter how much we experience in life, we were always, we were born with everything that we have. So, I would love to ask you, who is the real Barnet? But thank you. Such a delight to chat with you.
The real Barnet. Well, that is the real Barnet. There isn't any daylight between that. I don't think that I could have answered the same way if you'd asked me that question maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
What about back up when you were 10 years old?
Oh, at 10 years old, that was difficult. 10 years old. Well, when I was 10 years old, I was living inside, I call it a primary scenario. I'll give you a little background. A primary scenario, that's the life that we're born into. We come into the world, and all of the characters have been cast, and all of the wardrobe has been chosen, and all the sets have been built, and everybody has their script, and they all know their parts really super well.
Playing a role or being in a role, right?
They're just being who they are. But we come in as little people into the middle of this scenario, and we think it's all about us. We think, well, this person is preoccupied, or this person is overly attentive to me, or this person doesn't care that I'm alive. And we think it's all about us when we're very little. We think, well,
we're the center of the universe. Yeah.
And that's normal. We think it's about us. If daddy or mommy has issues and they are preoccupied with their challenges, we think it's about us. So by the time I was 10 years old, I was firmly inside of a primary scenario, and I thought that, well, maybe if I behave really well, maybe if I'm a very, very good boy, maybe if I do well in school, maybe if I'm really polite, maybe then I'll be liked, I'll be loved, I'll be safe. So that's kind of where I was at 10 years old, not understanding that, but very much caught up in trying to be the good son, the good brother, the good student, trying to behave, trying to be the kind of boy that is loved and appreciated in the world. And of course, what happens is, certainly what happened to me, is that I worked pretty hard at that, and you can never quite get there.
I was at my first job as a TV reporter in Wausau, Wisconsin. And I remember coming home thinking that, when you leave home, it's like if life is fast forward, you're growing. By the second you come home and everything's on pause. You feel like you went back. in time. And I remember seeing my dad stark and suffering from stomach cancer in the hospital. And the first thing that I wanted him to say was, "I love you," or my dad never said anything like that to me. I don't have really good memories of my father, but he was saying that, when are you going to be a doctor? When you going to be a doctor? And that shattered my soul. And I got angry, so angry, and I was just trying to digest it, because I think I love asking people what their childhood was like, because I think we all have a 10-year-old, it could be a 5 or 10-year-old little boy or girl in us that is still living in us, that still has those insecurities, that still is playing that role in that primary scenario. And for me, I was told I was fat and ugly. And I was like, I'm going to have a good personality, and I'm a good person, and I'm lovable. I remember thinking that.
That's exactly it. So, you've tuned into your version of how you respond to the first scenario, the first set of scripts. And it starts to inform our lives. We start to bake our cake, the cake of our lives, with those ingredients.
And now the Toan takeaway. I love this quote so much that I actually dug it out and reread it, and I really, really need to commit it to memory. And it's Marianne Williamson's quote that says, quote, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are we not to be?" And what I love so much about this quote is that when you are truly who you are, you start attracting other people like magnets. Like if you're positive, you start attracting other positive people. And that is the truth, and what I love so much about this quote. And now, back to the conversation. One of my favorite quotes is the Marianne Williamson's quote, how she talks about, why don't we step into our own light, and, how dare we be fabulous? I'm butchering the quote, but I love I love the essence of that quote so much, because so many of us, we shrink down. We don't step into that light, and you give more. When you're authentic and you're real, I think you're with who you are, personally, professional, or spiritual, then I feel like you give other people that permission as well.
Yes, you do, and people pick it up, and they pick it up. They just somehow sense it in who you are and who you're being. They sense it. They tune into it in the way we tune into signals on the radio.
Yeah, I've heard somebody tell me before that life is like a radio station, like a bunch of different radio stations, and some of us are tuned into that same station.
And we can change the tuning. Mm-hmm. That's the good news. Mm-hmm. We're always changing the tuning. We're changing the tuning by what we think, what we feel, what we imagine, what we expect, mm-hmm. what we dream, what we desire. These things change the tunings. Mm-hmm. There's lots of people that talk these days. It's very, very current to talk about law of attraction and all this kind of thing. But in many ways, that's what we're talking about. When you change the tuning, you change what the kinds of experiences that you allow for yourself. You don't bounce out of automatically. If lots of people win, not lots of people, but we've heard stories of people who win the lottery. Yeah. But they have weight release issues, and they manage to diet their way to a big weight release. Mm-hmm. But they don't have a self-image of themselves in a way that allows them to sustain that weight release or to hold on to the lottery money. You have to have the image of someone who is thin or someone who has a change of circumstance. That requires an entirely different inner tuning in different ways. You have to recalibrate your desire and your expectation and your imagination so that you can see yourself as having those things. Otherwise, you suddenly have them and you see yourself the same old way. And sure enough, pretty soon the weight's back on, or you've lost the wealth or the marriage or the boyfriend or the girlfriend. It requires an inner adjustment.
And now the Toan takeaway. So I love our conversation around inner adjustment and the idea that to keep sustained, whether it's money or health or weight, whatever it is that you need to be internally inspired, not externally motivated. And that's hard because when we're growing up, your mom and dad tells you, oh, you should be this, that, and the other. Or sometimes you think, oh, I need to externally get some sort of guidance from a God. But really, that God or that divine thing is really inside you. So turning that inward, because that is not sustainable when you're looking for outside sources to kind of guide you. You really need to follow your inner gut. We're all born with this GPS. So when you follow your gut, that will never lead you astray. I just keep thinking back to every single thing, personally, professionally, or even spiritually, any decision that I made, that I thought about it too much and I made the decision based on my thoughts, I always messed up. It never turned out right. That was not my truth. But when I followed my gut, it never led me astray. And now, back to the conversation. And how do you address that for, when people ask you, how do you adjust that? Because, if you can find that, that adjustment or help people find that, you'd be a billionaire or gazillionaire, I don't know. People take pills or they go to turn to other things,
If you could find it in such a way that people do not have to take responsibility for themselves, then yes, you'd be a billionaire if you could find something that allows people to change without having to take stock of themselves and make choices. But the rub is one can support another person just as I can be supported by other people into becoming more of who I can be. I can be supported by others, and I can support others into stretching outside of their comfort zone, into supporting them to discover the kinds of thinking and feeling and the kinds of beliefs that are held and the sorts of choices and the kinds of feelings that are habitual, that always lead to the same end result. Sometimes different costumes, different paint, different wardrobe, different makeup, but always the same result. So we can support each other into discovering that and into recognizing it and acknowledging it and then forgiving it and then releasing it and making new choices. But it's not a overnight thing.
And now the Toan takeaway. As human beings, I've learned that we are not perfect. So we all face challenges, we make mistakes. But whatever challenge you're going through, and let's be real, everybody goes through challenges. That's just a gift in life. And if you look at it that way and know that it's serving the highest you, that's amazing. That's being aware. The world is not really as chaotic and crazy as it may seem. But really, there's this synchronicity happening that we can't comprehend as human beings. So when something goes terribly wrong, you have to trust it and surrender and know that there's nothing out of order. You're exactly where you are supposed to be. And now, back to the conversation.
There's a wonderful, fun exercise. It was in this movie that I made called What Dreams May Come.
Oh, yeah, with Robin Williams.
With Robin, yes.
Oh.
And so there's a scene where Cuba Gooding Jr. says to Robin Williams, "Who are you? Are you your body? Are you your head? Are you your thoughts? Who are you?" So if you ask yourself that, who are you? Yeah. And I say, well, I'm Barnet. Then you say, well, and who are you? You say, well, I'm a husband. Who are you? I'm a father. Who are you? I'm a friend. Who are you? I'm a writer. Who are you? I'm a filmmaker. Eventually, you're going to run out of the obvious things, no matter how you ask it. And then it gets really interesting. You just keep saying, who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, you don't know anymore. You just know, well, I'm the me that's asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
And who's that? Who are you? Well, I'm the one who doesn't know who I am that's asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
And then who's that? Well, it's the one who knows enough to know he doesn't know who he is, who's asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
And who's that? So it can get very, very revealing, and you find out really quickly, I'm a lot more than my roles.
Mm-hmm.
The roles come and go. Because, when I was 20 and somebody asked me the same questions, there would have been different answers. When I was 10, there would have been different answers. Who am I? I'm a kid. Who am I? I'm a son. I'm a boy. Who am I? Well, I misbehave. Who am I? Well, sometimes people say I'm a bad boy. Who am I? Well, I'm a bad boy, but I like to think I'm good, but maybe I'm not. Who am I? I'm a kid who did well in math. Or I'm the kid who flunked at math and feels shame and isn't telling anybody. And so who we are at one time is not who we are a day later.
Do you have a moment that you kind of like started realizing, oh, crap, this primary scenario and this like life is so stressful. And even though on the outside, it may look so great to other people.
I don't think I can, well, I can. I can point to a moment when I was pretty young, like last year of high school, going into my first year of college. This was the time of the summer of love, right? There was lots of free love and lots of illegal drugs going around. And I wasn't getting any free love, so I experimented with the illicit drugs, the psychedelics and things. And I had an experience that blew open my subconscious and my unconscious in ways that were way beyond what I was prepared to handle. And up came all kinds of self-punishing thoughts and limiting ideas and judgments about myself of being bad and flawed and disappointment to myself and to people that I loved, and all kinds of really difficult feelings that I had held about myself that I hadn't admitted. And they all sort of came rushing out like some kind of psychic oil field geyser. And it took me quite a long time to recover from that, but I understood from that I was a lot more. There was a lot more to me than the way that I presented to myself on a day-to-day functioning. That was the tip of the iceberg of who I really was. And even what I had discovered in that experience, even that was the tip of the iceberg to what is there. And I also understood that how I relate to what I think in the world is very, very flexible. It seems so hard and fast in the moment. But even in a day or two or a week later, and certainly with time, the most rigid of ideas and beliefs, they seem to drift away. So, how that ties into a God conversation. Some people might say, be content to say, well, my own personal consciousness is constantly expanding, and I'm discovering myself to be more and more complex, more intricate in ways that I'd ever conceived of. And also, I feel that way about the God conversation as well. I'm at a place now where there's nothing in the world that is certain. For somebody to believe, to view the world with certainty, I understand that level of personal development. I understand what it is to hold aspects of the world as being constant and absolute and guaranteed, and I understand the need for that. But I also understand that there is a superseding reality that's bigger than that. That is essentially 100% chaotic.
Yes.
And that we are the ones in our individual lives and in our group lives who try and order the chaos, try to make sense of it with our stories and our little mental logic reason.
Our brain.
Our brain, our logic making machine, the brain that takes a whole basket full of pearls and strings them on a rope and calls it a necklace and says, you start at this speed and then the next speed and the next speed. You don't get to Friday without going through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in order. So it's more clear to me now that there is much more beyond what I think is logical, and there's much more beyond my ability to compute through my brain.
Yeah.
That is not the ultimate of what's there. And
we're not the center of the universe, like we were talking about earlier, right?
Well, I don't know whether we are or whether we're not, but we're certainly not in that sort of egoic way. I have a sense that what's more accurate than being the center of the universe is that we are really at one with the universe. There's not really any separation.
Yeah.
Between me and the universe, except that I don't have the consciousness to be able to hold an idea that big.
Yeah.
But when I was a little boy, and I spent every waking hour sucking my toe in my crib, I didn't have the awareness to hold much of anything beyond sucking my toe. My toe is still there. I just haven't sucked it in many years.
And I don't even think a lot of us can put our toes to our faces now.
I don't think I could reach my toe.
Yeah. You know what, though? One thing that was really, lovely about the book was that, to me, it reminds me of to go back to that place of when we were kids and when I was in wonderment all the time. And you know what? I've gone back to that, actually. There's a time when I was very stressed and I lost it. But I still wake up, Barnett. When I was a little boy, I still, I would think this all the time, and I still think this now when I wake up. I get up and I do my little morning routine, is do some stretches, do yoga, sit in stillness, sip on my tea, just for a little bit if I don't have time. But I just think, what am I going to do today?
Yeah.
You know the book, The Alchemist?
Yeah, I do.
One of my favorite books. And there's a moment where the little shepherd boy, Santiago, is going, on his, spiritual journey, if you will. And he's going back to meet the merchant's daughter or something like that. And he goes, but I don't even know if she'll remember me. And I think the quote I have by me all this on my computer, it says, when each day is the same as the next, it's because people fail to recognize the good things that happen in their lives every day that the sun rises. How did the Milton Secret come about?
The publisher of the book sent me the manuscript in galleys, and I read it, and I thought, wow, this is a book of juvenile literature, but I can see in it a way to make a film for adults and for families. that deals with uncertainty
Yeah.
and the uncertain times that people and families are living in. Exactly what we've just been talking about.
Yeah, right.
And I thought, I want to make a film about that. Because everybody is coming at a world of uncertainty with the notion that it needs to be fixed, and so everybody and absolute and guaranteed, and so everybody's freaking out because they can't handle the flow.
Yeah. But really what we're talking about here is that we're the ones that not need the fixing, but sort of like we're the ones that need to fix the way we react.
Yeah, we have an opportunity to mature our response to the challenges of life, from meeting it with fixed ideas and absolute ideas and guaranteed ideas and demanding insurance and I'm not going to move forward unless I know that I have this covered and this covered, and unless I have like a squirrel, all kinds of nuts saved away forever so that there's no chance. But even a squirrel saves nuts, and then the nuts can get lost. They can go rancid. They can go rotten. There's all kinds of things.
They could be eaten by other animals, or the squirrel could be killed or eaten,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
You
So
never know.
We don't get a pass from anything. We don't get a pass. So I wanted to make a movie about that, and I had an idea how to do it, about a whole family that was facing having to learn how to function in a state of flow. And I went and spoke to Eckhart about it, and I told him what I wanted to do. And he said, well, that sounds great. Tell you what, you write the script. If I like it, I'll give you my blessing. And so I did. I went off, I wrote the script, I showed it to him, and he said, well, this is really wonderful.
How long did it take you to write it?
It took me a couple of years.
Okay. And were you kind of stressed writing it, though? Or because when you have that sort of pressure, was there a moment where you went outer body again? And
yes, a lot.
Yeah, right? Okay, I wanted you to be real about that, because I was going to say,
a lot. In and out and in and out. And, I'm going to get it made. Now I'm not getting it made. And I am getting it made. And then the problem, and I'm not getting it made. And over, in and out and in and out.
Yeah. And so
then there was even a time when we did a crowdfunding. We raised like $325,000 or something.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, it looked like for a while that I wasn't going to be able to raise any more money, but I'd already raised $325,000, and most of it had been used. And I thought, oh, great. And I don't have that $325,000, and I'm going to have to find a way to give it back. And it was really lots of stress, in and out and in and out and in and out. Yeah. But you find a balance. We all we speak about, we talk about what we most need to learn, and so it's kind of I was making a movie about what I needed to learn about flow and letting go of absolutes and insurances, and so I went back to him eventually, and I had a script that everybody liked, and he said, "Oh, I love this. Go ahead."
Wow. What were you thinking at that moment? Were you like, breathing now?
I was thrilled, and I was exhausted.
Yeah. What was the process of you writing it, though? Are you a coffee shop person, or do you wake up early in the morning? I know Wayne Dyer.
No, I'm a office person. Okay. I'm a go and sit down at my desk and write. Okay. And 30, 40 drafts later. Yeah. Long process. It was a long process. It was tricky because we didn't want it to be a tutorial. Yeah. We didn't want it to be a movie that smelled like something on a soapbox, or that had any kind of lessons. It doesn't have any lessons in it.
Yeah.
It's a story about a boy who's very stressed out, and his mom and dad have financial problems and marital problems, and the boy is on top of that, is being bullied at school.
Yeah. But you know what? Though the kid, I had compassion for the kid too, who was bullying him, because he came from an abusive family. So
Yes.
they're so multi-layered, and I love that.
Yeah.
There's all
Yeah.
sorts of like little surprises.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that that it worked. It took quite a lot of patience
Mm-hmm.
to before those gifts were received. You know, these kinds of insights and little nudges from the unconscious and things that you just see in the world and you go, wow, that's the answer to what I've been looking for here. So that's kind of how that happened.
So you talked about kind of baking a cookie or a cake. Was this fully baked for you, or are you a perfectionist in terms of creative wise? Are you always? I'm never happy with my work.
Well, it's so funny. You know, I was at a screening yesterday, and as I'm watching the movie, I'm thinking, wow, the sound's not loud enough. And then I thought, I had this sort of kind of back and forth in my head of going, you know, you have to lighten up because you're robbing yourself of the pleasure of this. Yeah. And you know, it's only a habit. It's just a habit of judging, and it's never good enough. It's just a habit. So I would go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth so many times, and that's kind of a, you know, I'm in process of making peace with that part of myself, for whom it's never good enough. Yeah, I know in my heart that perfectionism is a disease.
Yes, and I am afflicted with that as I think everybody.
Yeah, it's a disease, and you know, there's a difference between doing one's best and excellence. And, you know, the word excellence shares the same origin as the word accelerate. And so excellence is really, I think, it's really about superseding my last effort. Yeah. So taking what I gained from my last effort and building upon that. So that it's personal, but that it's not some sort of competitive, some sort of judgmental competition with the rest of the world. Yeah, and usually what perfectionism is. It's usually a kind of an arrogant competition. It's ego. It's totally ego.
And now the Toan takeaway. I love that Barnet talks about this disease of perfectionism. And what I love about this so much is that he said it's not about excellence, because that's what we always think it's about, but it's about excelling oneself forward, being aware of the habit, which is not self-diminishing. For me, growing up, it was always, oh, you brought home an A-. My parents were like, A-? Why not A? You know? Nothing is ever good enough. And I took that into my professional career. And every video I made, every motivational speaking engagement that I was engaged in, I never really felt like it was an A. And what does that really even mean? Who am I challenging? A against who? So I thought that was just me. So hearing Barnet say it was really an affirmation for me. That I thought Milton Secret, his latest movie, was perfect. But he was like, oh, but there was a sound issue. And then we're really stealing that moment, that joy away from that present moment. So whether it's, oh, I hate my body, oh, I'm stupid, or whatever it is that you're telling yourself. So you really begin to heal by realizing that you are self-judging and that awareness. And once you're aware of that and calling it out and saying, you know, this is not my truth, or no, you know, I don't believe that, that is where you start to heal. And now back to the conversation. But you know what, though? It's constructed, I believe, by, you know, our society, you know, culture.
Yes.
Our professional world that we're in the entertainment world as well. If you're Adele, I remember her talking about how she wrote 25, her recent blockbuster, awesome album. And she was worried when she wrote it, she actually sang it to her friends, and her friends were like, that is not you. And she was like, oh, but the record label and other people were like kind of pushing her to get something out. And she was just like, no, I'm gonna take more time. So she scrapped almost, I think, everything but one song. And then she rewrote from her heart and started collaborating with people that allowed her to go back to that place that we've gone to throughout so much of this conversation. And to me, what Milton Secret, what was so lovely about it is because, okay, so the family They live in a nice home. The dad drives a Mercedes, right? And they have professional jobs. I mean, this is stuff that my family, we didn't have. But, it resonated with me so much, even though the characters didn't look like me or they weren't in my same position. But I would say the life lessons or those little the golden nuggets in the storyline. Oh my gosh, there were like a dozen of them. And one of them was the moment where I felt like I was the grandfather and my nephew Drew. My sister Lynn has my nephew Drew and Serena, and Drew is 12 now and Serena's 8. And 2 years ago, I went to visit them in Fort Myers, Florida. And Drew was so mad about something because he wanted his mom's attention because my sister was on the phone. But he was so pissed, and then he kept bugging her, and she was like, "Drew, you're being rude to me," And so he was like, "Mom, put away your phone." And my sister is a great parent; she's lovely, but you know what? I'm addicted to my phone. So he was so pissed because she snapped at him, and he felt that disconnect we talked about earlier when you're realizing that your mom or your dad isn't paying attention to you after you've been suckling on their nipple when, breastfeeding, right? When they were born. And he was so pissed, and Barnet, he got in this big fight. My brother-in-law, Chris, was yelling at my sister and him, and Drew ran into the room, and I'm like, "Drew, come here." And I gave him a hug, and he was like breathing so hard, like, "I want to break something, Uncle Toan. I want to break that lamp." And I said, "Drew, when you are mad like that, you need to remember that there's a place inside of you." And I said, "Can you close your eyes and breathe?" And he did it. He started breathing. I said, "Breathe deep." And he started breathing deep. And I said, "Drew, you might not be happy with what just happened, but you can control the way you react to that. There's always a safe space inside you when you're mad or about something and you feel like breaking something or hurting someone or punching someone. That's not going to help, because what if you hurt your mom or you hurt yourself and that light bulb breaks and you cut yourself?" And I said, "So breathe, and you can always go back to that." And he was like, "Okay, can we read a book, Uncle Toan?"
They get over it so quick. So one of the things that I do, because I'm always looking for what is my connection to everybody and everybody else. What's the relation, the secret strings that bind us? And so I always look for ways in my job is to understand that we're all connected in some way.
Yeah.
And my job is to find out what the connection is.
No matter what format or medium you're in, because when people look you up on the internet, it's like, "Oh, you do workshops, you're a producer, director, screenwriter, you fall into these roles, podcast co-host," and that really is that authentic, like that power. I think that we are all brought on this earth with a power, like a superpower. I really believe we're all kind of superheroes, right? In this like skin and bones. And it's our job and this duty, because we have this divine allowance to experience the world the way we are in this human body, right? And it's our responsibility then. The trade-off is that we have to figure out what is our power and use it to the fullest capacity before we die. And for me, I'm always about I've been a big follower of Oprah since I was younger, watching her when I was a little boy, and she's about live your best life. But for me, I want to take it a step further. It's discover your power, and then so that you can live your best, fullest life, right? But also share it with others. And so that is when the magic really happens. Right, because if you're just creating films just to create films, or you're just writing a book because of ego or whatever the heck, and you're not helping people with it, there's the trade-off. I think the value is not monetary. It's like the joy that you feel. Can you answer these 10 questions in a few words real quick for me before we go?
Yeah.
Okay, your superpower.
I'm willing to be wrong in the pursuit of what's right.
Daily spiritual practice.
I realize this is going to sound like a cop-out, but there's only spirituality. There isn't anything else. So I have a daily practice of falling out of my spirituality into control and ego.
Ooh, great. Biggest challenge in life ever up to this point?
Remembering who I am.
Bad habit?
I don't cut my toenails.
You need to get a mani-pedi. No.
I know.
That's gross. Okay. Being means?
Being is a state of willingness.
Being in the flow, okay, so regrets?
Being is a state, actually, more accurately, it's a state of possibility.
Oh, the state of possibility. I like that. Your biggest regret?
It's not specific, but I do know that whatever my regrets are as they come up, I remember that I could not have known or acted differently at the time.
There's many regrets. We all have them. Craziest thing you've ever done?
It's all crazy.
Love that. Cray. Love it.
It's all totally crazy.
Spirit animal?
Eagle.
Mine's a hummingbird. My wife is?
Divine.
Family means?
Mirrors. Responsibility, meaning the ability to respond. It's the family is the training ground for lovers.
Ooh, training ground for lovers. I love that. Barnet, it was really a divine allowance to connect with you, and we'll talk again soon.
We have to. We have to. So big hug to you. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to the next one. Let's do it again really soon.
Awesome. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Here's what I'm taking away from this conversation, that first and foremost, you need to trust that inner guidance and embrace it, that it's guiding you, and just know that. And secondly is embracing this contrast of letting go of that judgment of yourself and others. And if you're feeling like you're not good enough, just know that you are, and be proud of that. And lastly, be in wonderment. And how do you practice that every day? Think about it. We're on this big blue and green planet that's spinning thousands of miles an hour. And guess what? It's in perfect alignment with the other planets in this universe. And you are exactly supposed to be where you are. So just sit still and be in wonderment. To check out where you can learn more about Barnet Bain on his latest movie, book, and podcast, go to barnetbain.com. That's BarnetBain.com. Trust your truth. I dare you. For those of you who know me know that I love me some flip-flops. This episode is sponsored in part by the most inspiring of them all, Moloko, soulful flip-flops that leave positive messages in the sand. Each pair you buy means a child in poverty gets a pair of shoes. Moloko, good for your soul. And if you have kids in your life, you'll want to learn more about Community Heroes, a school-based program that grooms young philanthropists and the next generation of heroes. That's ComHeroes, ComHeroes.org. And one truth that connects us all is that we'll all be caregivers or cared for one day. The Wheel Life mobile app makes it easy to coordinate care for your family and friends, especially during health challenges and aging. That's www.theweallife.com.
You've been listening to TruthDare with your host, Toan Lam. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. And check out our website at TruthDareTalk.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at TruthDare Talk. You can join our conversation anonymously and tell us your truth. Click on the SpeakPipe link on our website at TruthDareTalk.com and use your mobile phone to speak your truth. Your truth is welcome here.